Good? All good. Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure how many of you guys have been here since morning. At least I came at 3 o'clock. Okay. Just to give some background on the overall topic over here, the future of development, collaboration, and culture. It's not like we never had this in the past. The computer industry or the IT industry has been running for almost 60, 70 years. Right from ZOS to AS400, there are a lot of tools that the developers always received it, and they used to use the tools for development, testing, deployment. The same cycle goes on. But over a period of time, there are a lot of tools that came in which actually made life simple for developers, hope so, which we call as a low-code or no-code platforms as such. So what exactly low-code or no-code platform means? These are a set of tools which are more visual in nature and also has certain treeable libraries which the developers can use to compose their software. Okay, and then accordingly they can actually deploy the software. It goes via certain pipelines. There are also low-code, no-code tools which are used for testing or even designing the pipelines, or also to design the infrastructure as well as run the platforms, monitor, log, etc., etc. There are a lot of low-code, no-code tools that has been introduced over a period of past 10, 15 years. And with the invent of AI/ML, there are a lot of other Gen AI tools that has come in, which has been pretty useful in certain sectors of the overall software development lifecycle, and there's a lot of maturity that's happening. So the way we are going to cover this whole session is that obviously we are going to discuss about what are the synergies of this low-code, no-code platform, how it makes life simple for developers, and also the blind spots around it. I'm going to get two experts who are going to talk about it, and I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to challenge them as well in certain cases. Yeah. So, yeah, please, what are the synergies that you think about the low-code, no-code platform?
All right. So I think low-code, no-code, right, is really a continuation of how software engineering as an industry has progressed through the last few decades, right? I think we saw in the 90s, there was a popularity of libraries, right, like C and all that stuff, and you have common libraries where people started sharing. Before that, everyone wrote their own code, right? And then I think after 2000s, you had all the new languages like Python and all that, coming up with all their repositories, with all the common code that everyone used. And then more recently, you have JavaScript and all those with NPM repositories, and now you have Docker with Docker repositories, and that layer of abstraction just keeps getting higher, right? And when you think about low-code and no-code, it's really a continuation of this rising of the abstraction layer, right? So more things are getting abstracted from you, which results you in being able to focus on delivering value. Now, where I see no-code and low-code really delivering a lot of value is that it actually enables engineers to focus on solving the building blocks of the problems, and we can actually now start outsourcing a lot of the business value creation over to the operations people, to the business, to the product owners, right? If we can build a sufficiently robust platform for them to build on top of, but I think that comes with a precondition, right? The platform has to be sufficiently robust, right? So I think the synergy here is to really how do we enable engineers to really focus on solving the real problems, and then enabling other folks to complement this and creating solutions for smaller sub-problems or more specific areas that they want to solve these problems in.
So kind of citizen developer program that everyone can develop in the organization, but obviously there needs to be some governance around it, right?
Actually, one more thought, right? I think we saw low-code long time ago in Yahoo pipelines.
Right?
That was original no-code solution.
And EasyTreeves. If you even take ZOS, we used to have EasyTreeves, which used to create COBOL code, right?
Yes.
So how about you? What do you think about all the advantages and?
So it's more than just about developers, right? It's also, we also look at citizen developers as well. And what low-code, no-code does is it creates this common language among these two, bringing business and IT closer together so that they can have that alignment as to what are they supposed to be building that will actually bring value for the customers. The other thing I see as well is the power of low-code and no-code. What it does is that it's able to take off a lot of the very mundane engineering work away from the engineers who have to focus on more complex things, and frees up the capacity so that the citizen developers can self-service, and the engineers can work on deeper, more specialized, more complex work that will bring greater value, greater advantages to the business that they are being part of.
Yeah. So you brought up a pretty good point, right? I mean, the agility for the business. Obviously, starting with Coffee Cup Maker, I don't know how many of you guys know about Coffee Cup Maker. One of the first tools that came for creating HTML pages, okay, way back in 2002, 2003. Yeah. So in 2004 or 5, when I started my career, so this was a tool that was used in an enterprise organization for business to create web pages, and they used to deploy it on a web server. Yeah. And the web server was sitting on Rackspace. Most of you might not know Rackspace, okay? But Rackspace is a provider, a cloud provider like AWS. It's kind of father of AWS, right? The problem that happened is that they deployed it. They had the full control. It's a citizen developer program that we ran at that time, and they kind of deployed the website for one of the marketing campaigns. And suddenly there was a TNC issue over there, pretty much like the example that you mentioned on Canadian Airlines. Yeah. There was a TNC issue over there, and the organization was sued. Okay, so this happened. Now, taking a step back, what do you think the blind spots of low-code, no-code platform? What are the blind spots? Probably you can start with that.
Definitely, I would say the first thing is security, right? That's a huge thing, especially for big companies that requires a lot of regulation. Depending on this platform, you can't just do a vulnerability scan, you can just do a code review on it. So without that visibility on security, you'll be thinking twice, should I take this on for my organization?
Got that. So let me take the other way around, right? So I have a low-code, no-code platform, and I have a huge DevOps pipeline, okay? So, you have everything, Jenkins, Veracode, SonarQube, New Relic, whatever it is, right? How do you think the governance will play a role in resolving such kind of bottlenecks?
So I think how we resolve the governance issue with low-code and no-code is you pretty much have a lot of the standards built in, right? Now the challenge comes in when, like you have regulators that say, oh, for this specific use case, you need to do it this specific way. And for that specific use case, you have another set of regulators that say, no, we don't really care about this stuff. We want a separate set. And you start creating all these modifications on each of these low-code, no-code modules, and you end up spending a lot more time building all these layers on top of it as opposed to building it from scratch. Right? And then that creates a whole bunch of other maintainability problems down the road.
Agree. So though we'll call it as a standard Jenkins pipeline, but there's nothing called standard because we would have like one pipeline for every application. So how many of you run DevOps platforms in your organization in this room? Anyone runs it? Most of you. All right. So 5 years down the line, you guys are going to be like me, lose your hair, yeah? Anyway, I'm just joking because AAML is coming up. There are a lot of model development platforms that are coming in. Okay, there are a lot of complexities that's coming in, especially to have the DevOps pipeline to be managed. Yeah. Said that there's another item, another topic that I want to take an opinion from you experts who are running this, right? The abstraction that you spoke about. Okay, abstraction. Most of this low-code, no-code platform has bought a certain level of abstraction. And there's a lot of selling happens on the low-code, no-code platforms. One of the things that I keep on hearing is that low-code, no-code platforms are really good when they're running alone, when they don't need to integrate with anyone else. Okay, the day you need to integrate with some other system, things starts to pop up. Any thought process on that statement?
I think the key challenge with low-code, no-code solutions is how do you make it extensible for you to integrate all the other peripheral stuff that people might want, or even custom solutions within each of the enterprises, right? Like the enterprise might have their own specific monitoring system that's not open source. So how do you enable that to happen, right? For example, if they choose not to use open telemetry, right? Yep. So how do you enable them to do that in an easy enough way that is low cost as well, right? I think a lot of the abstraction stuff can be overcome with sensible interfaces, but at the same time, you also find that engineers are very opinionated people, right? So they think that the way I've always been doing things is always the right way, right? And then the moment you give them another opinion, they're like, no, you're wrong, right? We won't go that way. And so I think the key challenge is really finding the balance between the cost of following the opinions as well as the cost of having a standardized approach. And I think this is something that engineering leaders need to come down to.
So the word that I'm taking over there is standards. Yeah. So define proper standards upfront and whether this platform can integrate those standards or create libraries, etc. So one of the examples that I want to bring is that, some of you guys are running DevOps, right? So I'll just relate to that. Jenkins, yeah. You guys might have written a lot of Python and Groovy programs over there, or scripts over there, right? For different purposes, even to integrate its own plugin or capture the data, you would have written it. The issue is that while the DevOps team manages the repo for the whole organization, most of you guys might end up not even managing repos for your own Groovy code. It's all custom code. You'll just write it then and there. You just put it in production, run it there, and you wake up only when there's an issue. A particular application doesn't get deployed. Immediately go and fix it, do some hard coding, boom, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Again, the reason why I'm connecting back to that is that Jenkins was supposed to be a low-code platform. Yeah. It is supposed to be a low-code platform. That's why you have all those plugins, etc. You can create the pipelines where you need to integrate with. All the plugins came along with that, right? But then you have to have scripts for certain integrations. Like he rightly mentioned, there might be certain other tool sets within your organization that you need to have Jenkins to integrate with. It can be a CD tool, which is not a CI tool exactly, which you need to integrate with, and that's where your scripts will come into picture. The word that I took from there is the standards. Now, I'll have the same question for you from the healthcare industry perspective, because you will be integrating with a lot of external interfaces, right? Yeah. And you might have a low-code or no-code platform which the business uses. And what are the challenges that you face and how do you handle it?
So as you all rightfully pointed out, just besides the security, the integration is one of the things as well. We use low-code, no-code. If we would take on a platform such as this, it requires us to have that flexibility to integrate in different environments and different products, and not just integrations, but also making sure that in those integrations are secure. Sometimes you think it's really fast to use a low-code, no-code platform, and then after that, when you come to the integration, that lengthens the whole process, right? So time to market for us in the healthcare is really, really important because, patents only last for, 10 years? So if you don't put it up in the market quick enough, your competitors will. And that's one of the really things that really stop us and make us consider how can we use low-code, no-code better in the healthcare industry.
The healthcare industry, yeah. So a couple of experience from my end that I can tell you is that, some of these low-code, no-code platforms, either they give a code that we need to basically compile, build, and then deploy, or most of the time they give us a binary, okay? And the binary size, usually it's pretty huge because they just package everything together. They say that I don't want to depend on anything around it, I just want to package everything together. Like the last presentation on Flutter, okay, like 3 or 4 years ago when we were exploring Flutter, one of the biggest challenges that I had was that the container that came out of it was pretty huge. It used to occupy a lot of space on the mobile as such. So this is not going to be a question, okay? I'm going to tell that when you're selecting a platform, look at end-to-end. It's not about just the look and feel of the application, but what are the features that is there in that application that will enable you to govern, enable you to optimize, enable you to write your own plugins, okay, with their own scripting language, enable you to integrate with multiple other external systems whenever it's needed. There are a lot of failures that I've seen, okay, which I have been a part of, which we might not want to repeat it. Yeah. So that brings a last topic, the last one. So coming back to AI/ML, there are a lot of this whole thing, going on with respect to ChatGPT, and we got Gemini, Sora, etc. coming into picture. Now, one of the things that low-code, no-code platform is going to enable is that they're going to give us access to a lot of feature libraries, okay, or feature models. And then you're going to have an operational system which you're going to design with your low-code, no-code platform that can use the feature libraries. How do you think that this is going to pan out of your experience? You can start.
I think with AI, definitely it's going to reduce the time to market greatly. It's going to allow you to resolve some of the use cases that you have that used to be more difficult before. And with AI, definitely it gives you a lot more ideas in terms of how to innovate and how to build upon whatever ideas that you have in mind to go to market. So I think with AI, you're going to see a huge growth in innovation and time to market as well. And this is a really, really powerful thing that you can expect in the next few years to come.
Yep. And what do you think are going to be the challenges with that kind of evolution that's going to happen?
I think the biggest challenge, I think you will see more of this kind of stories in the next few years. Right?
What kind of stories? You need to explain to them.
Yeah,
You told me.
So no, I'll share the story. I got two actually, right? I think last year there was this lawyer that was using ChatGPT as his search engine. And then the ChatGPT started hallucinating and created fake cases for him to reference. And he brought that cases up to court, right? And he referenced those cases. And after that, I think he was disbarred or something because he was citing fake cases. And then more recently, there was another one where Canada Airlines, they actually used a chatbot to talk to users using LLMs. And what happened was that this chatbot actually gave a forced refund policy to the customer. And then Air Canada was saying, oh, we're not responsible for what the chatbot says, right? And what ended up happening was that the court ruled that Air Canada was, in fact, responsible for the outputs from the chatbot, and they had to follow what the chatbot said. So I think a lot of people are using AI ML in a way that they have no idea what are the repercussions of it. And we are going to start seeing a lot more conservative usage of it in the near term as people try to figure out how do they have stricter boundaries around what AI can or can't generate. And I think this goes back to our original discussion on standards, right? This will result in more standards within organizations on how do they control and constrain all these models to ensure that the right output is consistently being generated. I think this will be one of the biggest problems that people in this space will need to be fixing in the near term.
I agree. So again, with standards comes the governance aspect as well, because we need to govern everything, whatever comes out of, whether it's low-code, no-code platform or proper coding platform, we need to eventually govern it with standards by defining the standards upfront. So in kind of summary, I just want to summarize a bit, and then I'll also pass it across to you to summarize or add on top of it. Yes, there are a lot of evolution with respect to low-code, no-code platform. It's not happening like 3 or 4 years ago. Because of the use cases, there are a lot of things that happened like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. In fact, a tool like Microsoft Dynamics, okay, it was supposed to be a low-code, no-code platform, and it is still as such. It's very hard, to break the platform, and there is a customization layer or extension layer where you can start building it. And also there are very specific application-specific platform. For example, there are platforms like Blaze Advisor, which is very fraud-specific. It's a low-code platform which is given to create analyst or the fraud analyst. Okay, they can create their own policies and deploy it. This evolution is going to happen. It's going to become more and more abstract, where there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say that HTML is a coding language. Okay, so that's what they're going to say. They're going to develop their own application and start deploying. It's in a good way that will actually bring in agility, right? As well as speed of doing something new, testing of prototyping, rapid prototyping. You use all the marketing terminology, okay? All those things are going to happen. While there is also a need of coming up with the standards upfront. Okay, it can be organization level standards as well as it can be tool specific standards. What the tool is supposed to do and what the tool is not supposed to do. Okay, very clearly defined. And then we start using the tool accordingly. So that's where we are with respect to this whole evolution. What do you think? Is there anything you want to add on top of it?
I think one more thing I would probably add to this discussion is that, low code to code is probably like serverless to servers, right? It may be called serverless, but there are still servers running in the background. It's just someone else's servers. Same for low code, right? It's really not low code or no code. It's that you're not writing the code, but someone else is. So if the person has not written the code for it, you probably can't access that capability.
Yep.
Yeah, I think low code, no code is definitely the future. We can't stop it from happening. It is something that you're going to need because as your organization grows, as business conditions become more complex, you need to think about how you can use low code, no code to speed up the innovation, to speed up the productivity, such that your teams are able to have that freedom, the autonomy to create things by themselves without the need of a very deep specialists to come in and help them. At the same time, in order to adopt low code, no code well in your organization, you really need to consider the governance aspect of things. And you do need to think very hard about the roles, the responsibilities of your citizen developers as well as part of your process.
Yeah, you brought up a pretty good point on the roles and responsibilities. Yeah, I mean, I do have a statement. There are people, a lot of people who say that, whenever these kind of thing happens, or new tools are introduced to them, they say they are responsible for the tool, but not accountable for the outcomes.
Yeah.
All right, that kind of, completes our discussion. Is there any questions that you want to ask? I mean, anything. You want to go technical, I can ask. Yep.
Hello. What is the advice which you want to give to the startups when you say about low code and no code? And what are the potential pitfalls which they should be mindful, especially with respect to the startups?
Can I take the question? Yeah, go ahead. So, with respect to a startup, there are three phases in the startup life, right? So, first thing is that you want to do some kind of prototyping before you scale, right? So, because most of the startups is about how to sell a particular capability, okay, to the market, and then you want to scale. So, you need to go for low code, no code, because that's going to reduce your cost upfront. But as you scale, you might need to revisit your architecture again. Okay, you'll not be able to use everything with low code, no code platform. For example, if I want to go for, I'm not sure which industry you're talking about. Let me just take banking as an industry, right? So if I want to do a startup with banking as an industry, in the banking industry, I'll just go for a software as a service everywhere. And with respect to my front end, I might go for a platform where I can build mobile apps for a simple feature of login, data, etc., etc. But as I scale, for example, I might start with 500,000 users. Suddenly, I'm reaching around 10 million users. Probably I need to revisit certain things, because for the 10 million users, I need to do a lot of differentiators. I need to build a lot of differentiators like personalization, etc., etc. If there are platforms like that, pretty good. If there is not, you might need to revisit again. So that's how I look at it, because probably there are tools out over there, but I haven't seen any, to be very frank. Okay, I haven't seen any till date which is successful to scale that way. Yeah. So there will be a lot of other low-code, no-code platforms that comes in, which you need to integrate together, and they need to talk to each other. So scalability aspect is one of the things that you look at of any tool that you select. Am I supposed to talk about other vendors other than this over here? I can. I mean, we can catch up after this.
As an example, case study, if you have.
So there was this company, okay, when I joined the bank that I'm working on, there was this company from whom we took a stack, okay, we bought a stack. It was a low-code platform as such. And when it came to scalability, okay, so my definition of scalability is how fast I can develop, deploy, and it's resilient in production runtime. That's my definition of scalability, yeah. I did have some scalability issues in production once we got it in, yeah. We decided that no, we are going to develop it our in-house using native platforms of Kotlin and Swift, okay, because there are a lot of differentiators that my business wanted, which I couldn't get in a platform that had feature libraries, okay, but that platform was being used by other banks, and I couldn't differentiate our bank from that. So we had to develop our own in-house build for that, because that's where our scaling came in. Our business wanted to scale more, and they want to differentiate themselves more, correct? So we didn't find any at that time. Yes, there were some companies that came from Europe and said that they are doing for ABC companies, why don't they use that? But we are very strict that no, I'm unable to build my differentiators with your platform, so I'm going to build it in-house. So, yeah, if you want the specific name of the vendor, after this, I can tell you. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, they're recording, unfortunately. Yeah, and I work in a regulated environment. I need to pay bills. Thank you. Yep. Any further questions? You had some question, right? Yep.
Okay. First of all, thanks for introducing this low code, no code. I'm curious about like relating no code with some of the tool. So which tool you suggest would be a no code? Like for example, you related low code as a Jenkins, right? Jenkins can be as a low code because some sort of code we are writing, but plugins we are using. If I like want to know the, if we want to relate the no code tool, which would be the tool?
I think in general, it's not really a tool or a product, right? I think no code, low code is really a mindset of how you go about doing things, right? I think one of the early food delivery startups in Southeast Asia, they started out with Google Sheets. Right? They literally collected orders on Google Sheets and then they placed it and then they got everything going. And when they reach a certain scale, they're like, okay, now we have demand, we start building an app for it, right? So that is also a low-code and no-code kind of approach to starting a startup or building a solution. It's not so much that you have to stick with a certain software, but how do you stitch different pieces of software together to achieve the results that you want?
But what is the purpose? Can you tell me the purpose? Yeah. Probably then I'll be able to advise more.
Yeah, I wanted to understand from like DevOps point of view, where can this low code, no code can be fitted?
So let me take an example, right? I mean, how many of you guys write YAML composition? Yeah. So there are tools available, okay, which are low code, where it actually manages all the tags for your YAML and then use it for composition of your orchestration, whether it's on containers, etc., etc. There are a lot of codes available, a lot of no-code platforms available, where you just need to write the name of the artifacts that you want to move, where you want to move, which servers that you want to move, and that also you can template it as an Excel sheet, and then you can upload it. Or if you don't want Excel sheets, you can have it in an INI file. Then it will create a YAML file for you. There are platforms available for that, open source that too.
But I think it's also important to note that despite this being no code, you're still writing the thing somewhere.
Yeah,
stuff doesn't matter.
That's going to exist, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you're writing Excel versus YAML, right?
Exactly. For example, if you want to create a video, right? Awesome. You have Instagram, correct? That's proper no code. Earlier, when before Adobe came in, there were even for VB, if I remember, Visual Basics, they did have an interpreter for video, but still you need to bring that object on the screen, and then you just need to compile. It will just start playing the video player over there. Okay, that was like, I'm talking about 2004, 2005. But if you want something like that, you still need to write something today in order to assist the so-called no-code system to operate the way you want it to operate, because you're instructing them. That's what YAML is all about, right? You still need to instruct them. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Raghu from Masco. So my question is, when you say low code and no code, meaning the domination of tool sets will be increasing. Yes. So let's say already I'm using some 7 different tools for, as you said, Jenkins and SonarQube, Verago. So as long as you increase your tool, your cost effective also will be increasing. So what is your advice to control the cost effective with the no code, low code, meaning the tools point of view?
So, good question. Yeah, good question. So let me take a step back, right? There's an evolution that's happening right now with respect to low code, no code platform. Okay, what's happening is that there are certain platforms that's actually coming in with its own inbuilt DevOps pipeline. Inbuilt. So what they're saying is that, hey, you know what? Take this box, deploy it on a container or a VM, okay? I can give you a segregation based on SDN between 3 environments. Let's just take, dev, SIT, UAT, production. I can segregate it. I have Argo flow all the way. It can actually move the component from one environment to another environment. On top of that, I'll also give you the testing tools. Basically, some of these platforms, what they're doing is that if you go to some of these CSPs, cloud service providers, they have all these tool sets at different places and we need to stitch it together. The platform is saying that, hey, I've already stitched it together for you. Okay, you just need to deploy assets wherever you want to deploy. Yeah. So what has happened is that the whole control of development, then moving to a particular environment, whichever environment it is, testing it, and then moving into production. The whole control has gone back to the end user, citizen developers that I'm talking about. Yeah. So that is an evolution that's happening today. That's an evolution that's happening today. What I would suggest is that you need to have both. You need to have both, but you need to see how to apply the standards, because what will happen is that with respect to cost, your standard tool sets are there for certain application profiles, because every application profile is different, correct? So, I usually compare DevOps to satellite launch vehicles. That's what we do. We basically take something from Earth and put it in a particular orbit, correct? That's exactly what we do. So every application profile, every satellite profile is very different. Certain satellites are like 500 kgs or 1 ton, and we, certain places we carry like 1,000 satellites together. We did it in India, correct? So very different application profile. One, we need to have a standard set of tools for certain application profiles, and then certain application profiles will have a different set of tools because their profile is different. You got it right. The rockets that they need is very different from the rockets that we have. So we need to have both. With respect to cost, yes, it comes to an informed decision because cost is not only about DevOps, it's about the overall application, what is the purpose that it resolves. For example, some of the modern analytics platforms that most of you will get in future, near future, it's going to have a very different application profile, very different operating model compared to a normal application that we develop in Java and port it across. So the whole dynamics is going to change, right? So you asked, just to close off your question, right? You need to have standard ones, the tools, but then for certain application profile to support them, to launch that satellite from the ground to a particular orbit, a very different rocket needs to be built and we need to support that. It comes with a cost. And there's a premium to be paid for that. Yeah? Thank you. Oh, guys, you can also answer. So I just got excited with the technical stuff, yeah?
You gave a good answer.
Apologies.
No worries.
So no further question. Okay, you can run away.
We can run now.
Thank you so much, speakers, for such an engaging session. It seems that this was like the cool session for some reason, I don't know.
Cool, guys.
Requesting the speakers to please stand for a group photo.